Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. This is going to be a guide to the apple tree mod by the one and the only Omatana. Yes, this came out recently when you guys are watching this, theoretically. As long as I post it when I think I'm going to post it. But yes, that should have come out recently. It's a really cool mod. Basically, you have some tree pastures over here that allow you to produce apples. And then over here we have a place that allows you to do apple juice production and some other things. And then a market stall to sell them. So pretty straightforward. If we go in the store here, there's a few different pieces. You can see under factories, of course, we have for $10,000, we can put the juice production down, which we have one over here. And then if we go over to selling points, at the very bottom, we have the little market stall here, which it'll also take some other things. You can see down there, bottom left-hand side, it will take grapes, tomatoes, lettuce, apple juice, grape juice, strawberries, apples, and raisins. Which, in case you're wondering, yes, this production here, the juice factory, I can find it again. It does intake grapes and apples, and will make grape juice, raisins, and apple juice. And the grapes and raisins recipe is different than the base game one, and we'll take a look at that as well. I should also note we will talk about the profitability of this at the very end, as I normally do. And then if we go over to greenhouses, at the very bottom we have a set of 4 trees, and we have a set of 1 trees. So you can just set it down. These are productions essentially, but they do look like nice little orchards. They're both the same, except for the group will do production 5 times as fast. The recipe is the same, the inputs are the same. The 5-tree or the 4-tree group will hold more, but they will do 5 times the production as the singular tree. So just be aware of that. But yeah, so the apple tree production, this is where it's going to spawn the pallets of apples. We can access the production menu here, which we'll take a look at that more in a second. And then over here we can dump our inputs in, which the inputs for this are water, seeds, solid fertilizer, and manure. You don't need all of them. You actually only need water to make it work. But if you wanted to dump some of that other stuff in, the fertilizer would go right here. And then if I was to put, well, let's just say some seeds here. The seeds would also go in right here. You just pull up behind, dump them in. And also the manure would go right here. If I put some manure in this bad boy, I could also dump that in. Same thing for the other production over there for just the singular tree. You can dump it off to the side. I guess I might as well put some manure since I still have some. Just dump it right here where the dump icon is. There we go. It's got manure in it. I'm going to move this out of the way. We don't need this truck anymore. And then we also have some water here. So if I come over top of it, I can again dump some water in there. Not a problem at all. And if I go in the production menu, we have again the singular tree, which just has manure right now, no water. And then there's also the apple tree group, which has pretty much everything now. And the water's filling up a little bit. Now, the only output is apples. That's the only thing there is. But there are 3 different recipes. So the first recipe is 64 water to 64 apples. The second one is 24 water, 1 seed, and 5 manure to get 64 apples. So basically, you can see this is 240 cycles versus 120 cycles. So basically, this produces twice as much if you use either manure or the solid fertilizer one, which is 24 water, 1 seed, 1 solid fertilizer. So if you use either manure as an add-on or solid fertilizer as an add-on, it doubles your production. And same thing again, the smaller apple production here, this is the singular tree. The recipes are all the same, except this is 24 cycles versus 48, or excuse me, 24, 48, and 48 versus 120, 240, and 240. So again, if you multiply 24 times 5, you're going to get the cycles here, which is 120, and same for the 48 to the 240. Then, for comparison, I have a grape production plant processing unit here placed on the map, because when we talk about the recipes for the juice production, we have apples, grapes as the inputs, then apple juice, grape juice, and raisins as the outputs. The apple juice, of course, is 5 to 4 apples, nothing too crazy there, 1,296 cycles per month, costs $60 a month to run. The grape juice is 5 grapes to 4 grape juice. But up here, it's 14 grapes to 7 grape juice. You lose half of the product here versus here, you don't lose that much. You lose 20%, which is quite nice. Raisins is 1 to 1 versus the grape processor, which is 2 to 1. So instead of losing half, you don't lose any of your product there. So yeah, this has just got better recipes for grape juice and raisins on it, which makes it a little bit more profitable. So I did do the profitability calculations for these guys specifically here. So if you're using this production, even if you're not going to do any apples, this would still be a really great mod to download if you're going to do anything with grapes. So that's what I recommend. Now, when we look at our productions and stuff like that, we'll do it on here. Over here, if I click over here, so this area is highlighted, I can change the output mode from storing to selling. and distributing, and then back to storing. I also can activate them here. So if I activate them, I can do that. Boom, boom, boom. I can activate all of those. Now, we're going to run all of them because I want to see if they're all going to produce the amount of apples that they're supposed to produce comparatively. So we're kind of see how that runs right there. Because theoretically, in an hour period, they'll produce so many apples. So we'll see. We'll kind of see how it is. I'll do some calculations on that. But if you have it set to storing, it's going to fill up here until it has enough apples to produce a pallet. It'll spawn a pallet. It'll keep doing that until there's no more space for pallets. Then it'll fill up. If I have it set to selling, every hour it's going to automatically sell all the apples it has. You will take a little bit of a loss. If I have it set to distributing, it'll take these apples and it'll distribute them to the apple juice production, which is quite nice because then it'll take them in here since they're an input for this, and that'll be good to go. But we're going to leave them as storing for now. And you notice since they're all the same output, which is apples, I can't change one individually. They all have to be changed. Then obviously we have the inputs, the outputs, the running status, cycles per month, which the cycles per month, what that basically means is this recipe is going to happen 120 times per month. The cost to have this thing activated is $2 a month, so it's pretty cheap to run as well. So yeah, we'll go ahead and run this. I'm going to get some apples out, and then we'll take a look at those and go from there. All right, so we have produced some apples here, and we have a pallet, and you can see when they're activated too, you have nice little decorative apples on there compared to the tree that does not have anything activated on it. So we do have some apples right here. Now, they weigh 30 kilograms, so I don't have super strength on. I can move these around, which is super duper nice. So I can move these easy peasy, and I can take them over to our other production over here if I want to. I've got some pallets of grapes over there, which I don't think are going to be as easily moved. These are ones I just spawned in. Yep, these are too heavy, so I'm going to have to use super strength to be able to move these pallets of grapes around like that. Now, pallets of grapes, that's not the usual medium. Normally, you'd have them in like a grape trailer. But again, this isn't a guide on how to grow grapes. It's just a guide on these production facilities. So, one other thing I want to note is even though I have all three of these running, they're not all running at full efficiency. What that means is if you have, normally if I deactivate two of these, so if I only have this one running, it'll run 120 cycles of this every month. Now, if I activate a second one, this is only going to run 60 cycles of this every month, and this one's only going to run 120 cycles of this. Now, if I activate the third one, it's going to divide all of those cycles per month into 3, because it is a divided production, which makes sense, because you don't have any more trees. So that seems totally reasonable, but I wanted to test that, and I will test that with this as well. So we need to put apples and grapes in to get our apple juice or grape juice and our raisins. So for this production right here, we can obviously access the menu using the wrench right here. This is the spawn point for pallets. You can go inside. Omatana always puts really good detail in hers. So you can see kind of some of the production things happening. And there is some animations in here and we go ahead and activate it, which we'll show you guys in a second. So if I move the grapes in, if I put them right over this dump area, they're going to go in. And same thing if you bring a trailer over there, you can put your grapes in that way as well. And then apples, same thing. You can see that it's actually slowly draining them down. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and spawn just some pallets of apples. Just so we can get some more apples in there. You can see those are all slowly going in there. And now for our production, we got a little bit of apples, a little bit of grapes, all that sort of good stuff. Now, the grape juice and the raisins are both productions we've seen before. And this, again, you can change the output to selling, to distributing for each of these or whatever you want to do. I'm going to leave them all in storing. And I'm going to go ahead and activate all of them because I want to go ahead and test out and see how they run. Now, I'm going to let it run for a bit. And you can see in here, by the way, now that we have it activated, you have a little bit of a juice function there, which, is there a light in here? There may not be, actually. There's a light right there. I wonder if it comes on at night. It might be something like that. So, yeah, since I don't see a control for it, I'm going to assume it's going to come on at night. But, yes, you have some apple juice animations in here, which I think is quite cool. Omatana always goes just kind of above and beyond on her mods and her products. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and we'll let that work on getting some stuff out here for us, and I'll bring you guys back in again. All right, I fast-forwarded some time, and this is not a divided production, which means all of these, if you had them all turned on, I turned that off after it spawned a pallet. If you have all of these turned on, they will all run at full force, which is awesome. But yes, we have a pallet of grape juice here, which I obviously can't normally lift. I have super strength on, so it's fine. The pallet of apple juice, however, is 30 kilograms, so you can normally lift this without super strength. And yeah, and then obviously we have the raisins, which nothing new there, but that's 600 kilograms, so you can't lift that without super strength or a pallet or something. And obviously, last thing, if we want to use our sell point, bring this over here, and we are going to get paid $3,800 for that. So I want to talk about the pricing real quick before I go in here. So apples, it says 1408 here. I did fast forward through a year just to help give the prices some range here. But if you sell them at the market stall, I found you normally get around $1,500. So that's the price I'm going off of for the sell price. Apple juice, same kind of similar thing. I found around 3,800. I mean, this one actually says 3,800, so I think that's pretty accurate. Actually, I think it worked out pretty good for that. So those are kind of the prices I used for that. But let's go ahead and take a look at the profitability here. So this is my production sheet, which I do all my production profitabilities on. It's linked down below in the description for you guys to take a look at. On this sheet right here, I have all the used values for different products. If it's from a modded production, I usually have it orange, which I need to highlight these guys orange as well, because they're from a modded production. They're not a base game product. And then production other, obviously I put in here that the apple trees are divided production. That's the question we're asking or answering in here. And the juice production is not divided. There's also a couple other things with like some, different tests and stuff like that for auto sell and for construction productions, which you can look at if you'd like to. I have videos out on everything in this spreadsheet, but it's just all in one spreadsheet to make my life simpler. So the apple tree mod, we have the apple production, apples manure, and apples fertilizer. Now these are all for the single apple tree. If you have the quad apple tree, just take whatever values you get here and multiply them by 5, as if you had 5 of the singular trees. So just be aware of that. I didn't want to do the work twice, if that makes sense. Then we have the apple juice, grape juice, and raisin production. Now, normally I wouldn't do if they were doing something that's already been in the game, like grape juice and raisins. I normally wouldn't do them and add them onto the spreadsheet, but since their recipe is different, it is important that I do add them onto the spreadsheet to show the difference. So if we actually go up, well, actually, we'll talk about this a little bit more first here. So I have the inputs, water, which typically water doesn't cost anything. But if you downloaded the copy of this spreadsheet and wanted to make water cost something, if you put, let's say, water costs $500 per 1,000 liters, because you have to buy it, it will add that cost for the input in here, and it will all adjust across the production. So I'm assuming water is free for you, but there's that. And obviously all my other prices are in here as well. And if you change any price in here, it will reflect itself on this part of the sheet, which is quite nice. That's the way I designed it. So yeah, we have, so for example, for the apples, water is the only input for the basic recipe. Then we get 24 cycles per month. 64 water is the input, and 64, and they cost $0 for that. 64 apples is the output, and those 64 apples sold at the best price, or around $1,500, is $96 output. Now the profit per cycle is taking into account the cost to run that production every month, which is $2 for the apple. So it's taking that into account. So it's dividing that $2 by the 24 cycles and subtracting that and the input cost, which is 0 in this case, off of the output value to get the profit. And then we have the profit per month, which is simply this multiplied by however many cycles. So we have the profit per cycle and the profit per month. Then we have the input of how much water it's going to take and how much apples it's going to produce every month. Then obviously this over here is the cost to run the production. So if we take a look at that, if you're running the apples with just water, you get $95 profit per cycle. If you're running them with seeds and manure, $94, and then $92 for the solid fertilizer. Now this is either the price that it costs to buy seeds and fertilizer, or the other way we look at it, for like manure, for example, is only 30 cents here. How did I get that cost? Because typically that's a byproduct, which it might be for you, so it might be free for you, and you could change that if you'd like to. But that's how much you get if you sold that manure instead of putting it into this production. So we're trying to look and see if it's worth putting stuff into the production. Just like the grapes and the apples over here, this is how much it would cost, or how much you would make if you sold that amount of those grapes or apples instead of putting them in here. Then obviously we have the output values, and then we have the profit. So we're looking at a really good profit for raisins per month. And then apple juice, almost 10 grand, grape juice, almost, just over 8 grand there. And then even if you just sold the apples alone on the, the super fast recipes here, even with buying fertilizer, you're making $4,400 a month for the singular tree. So if you took that, what is that, 44.53? Let me type that into my calculator real quick. So we took 44.53 and we multiply that by 5, because the 4-set tree will do that. That'll make you $22,000 profit every month if you're putting fertilizer in. So definitely a worthwhile mod. Well done, Omatana. Absolutely fantastic. And again, all this data is in here available for you guys. So yeah, you have all that in here. I think that's everything that I wanted to show you in here. Oh, let's look at the grapes actually. So for grapes, we're looking at, a little bit of a decent profit here. I can't really tell the profit per grape, but if I go to the grape processor full size up here, we're actually losing money on the grape juice, and we're not making as much on the raisins. So Yeah, which makes sense based on the productions. But yeah, there's a lot of data in this, and again, it's linked all below. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Omatana, thank you for all the mods you make for this community. You do an absolutely fantastic job. Make sure you guys go check out Omatana's English-speaking channel, Gamer Granny Tana. Yeah, that's what I got for you guys. If you guys enjoyed, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the Farmer Cop channel, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.